My sobriety date is February 6th of 2001. I have a home group and a sponsor, and I'm grateful to be here. And I was told that I'm supposed to share my experience, strength, and hope, which means different things to different people. But I guess I'm just going to share a little bit of my story. And I grew up in Northern Virginia. I'm actually in Maryland right now, and this is where I live. And I grew up in Northern Virginia with three sisters, and my mom and my grandparents all living together. And my dad was not around, and he was an alcoholic. And from very early on, I said I didn't want to be an alcoholic, and I didn't want to be anything like the guy. He left when I was a kid. I didn't have any contact with him for 18 years, and I kind of went about my business that way. And I was great at sports. It's the only thing I was good at, to be honest. I was not a good student. I didn't like school. I got in a lot of trouble, and what happened to me is I got into high school, and I'm hanging out with these guys, and I had all these rules that I was going to follow growing up. I'm not going to drink, not going to do drugs, none of that. And when push came to shove, one of my close friends said, "Hey, man, we're going to go get messed up at Eli's house today." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "We bought some pot and we're going to go smoke it." And I said, "Okay." And that was my resolve. That was my big fight to not drink and do drugs. There it was. It vanished very quickly. And I did that. And then I made myself drinks by myself, made myself a screwdriver at home, told some kids at school, made some rum and Coke. They told me I should try it. Did that next. And then very shortly thereafter, I was invited to a party with some upperclassmen. And I was a freshman in high school, and man, did I want to fit in. And most of the time up to this point, I spent reviewing, thinking about how I would talk to people, thinking about how my case was different, how my life was different, how my family didn't have money, how I feel like I'm millennia away from puberty at 14, you know what I mean? And all these kids look, all grown up. Like, I had all these things in my head that I thought about constantly, and I was just dialogue after dialogue, arguments that I was preparing for just in case, you know what I mean? And just trapped in self. And I went to this party, and they said, "We don't have any booze." And after that time, I drank rum and Coke. I hid a handle of Bacardi out in the woods. And I said, "I can get us booze." And somebody drove me there. We picked up this bottle and this backpack, and we went back to this party, and we walked through all the people dancing, and doing whatever they do at parties that aren't partying for real. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but they do something. And we walked past them, and we walked out on a back porch, and they start pouring shots. I've never taken shots, but I'm a chameleon. I'm not going to tell you that I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm not going to pretend that I'm new to this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an expert, a master, so let's throw down these shots. So that's what we do. And I put down 4 or 5 shots in about 2 or 3 minutes. And what's happening is, what I didn't realize is these guys are getting me drunk so they can take my bottle. Now I didn't realize that I was a noob. I had no clue what I was doing. Right. And, but so I started to get the effect produced by alcohol. And I got to tell you, all that stuff that I thought about, that I compared myself to, where I looked at your clothes and saw they were different than mine, and that your parents bought you a BMW at 16, and all this stuff, like, it shut off. I didn't care. I could care less, and I started to feel comfortable. I could look people in the eye. I wasn't afraid of them. I could talk to women. I could do all these things that were seriously impossible for me before. And the only thing I did differently was drink, only thing I did differently was get the effect produced by alcohol. So what happened to me that night completely changed my life. I got the magic from alcohol, and I started on a little road. Now let me finish the story real quick. I got drunk, and I thought I should slow down. So I decided I'm just going to smoke a cigarette, that'll make me feel a little bit better, even though I was starting to feel sick. Right. So I take a couple drags off this Newport, This does not help my situation in any manner. In fact, it accelerates my sickness to a level where I have to get up immediately, as calmly and as cool as I can, to make sure people know that I'm fine. You know what I mean? I'm not going to throw up, you know? So I get out of that back porch and I head inside and I look for a bathroom and I don't find a bathroom. And I found one, it was occupied. So I go upstairs and try to find another. And I've run out of time. The time has arrived for me to be sick, right? And I find this walk-in closet and I just throw up all over it. And I grab this dress off a hanger and I start wiping it up. Like, this is helping the situation. In fact, this is making the situation much worse, but it's okay. And then I wake up outside. My first blackout, my first time travel, right? That they call it time traveling if you're new, right? Because time passes, you don't know how much has passed, but you're still doing stuff, right? So I found myself outside, don't remember leaving, don't remember going down the stairs, nothing. And I come back in this party. I'm laying in the grass in between these two houses. I come back in the party and someone says, "You're never going to believe what happened." And I said, "What?" And they said, "Someone threw up in Kat's mom's walk-in closet." And I said, "Oh my God, that's so messed up." Nobody knew it was me, right? I wasn't copying to it. You know, I was smart enough to not do that, right? And so I'd love to tell you that from this moment on, like, I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm really going to get a handle on this thing. I'm going to learn to drink like a gentleman. Maybe I thought something like that. I'm not exactly sure. It was a long time ago, but I never achieved it. I drank like a pig from that moment till I stopped. You know what I mean? I got sick all the time. You know, I always overshot the mark because I was always searching for oblivion. I was always searching for that magic. My weekend warrior phase lasted 3 weekends. And then I was drinking and doing drugs every day. I stole tons of money from my mom, from my grandmother. I stole child support checks that my dad sent, and found out which envelope that was. And I would run to the bank at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. And my family got really worried about me. And they sent me away right after my 17th birthday. And I was in a rehab for 23 months in upstate New York. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of people that complain about being in treatment for 28 days, maybe a long-term 90 days. I have to say, I don't feel sorry for you. You know, I'm sorry. I just don't. I was in there for 23 months. And I got out of that place 19, and I just went off to college. And when I went in, no interest in stopping drinking, definitely not an alcoholic, not a chance. When I left, maybe there's something wrong with my drinking. Maybe I should look into this. Maybe I should go to meetings. So that's what I did. And I went to meetings, and I started connecting with people, and I got a sponsor. And the short end of the story is I worked the steps, right? And that is where my life changed. For a couple of years, I did a 4th and 5th step, gave me a little bit of time, gave me a little bit of runway, but my life never really changed. I never really changed that much. When I did 8 and 9, my life dramatically changed. And so did my outlook, so did the feelings about myself, all the dialogue that I still had in my head. A lot of it slowed down because I didn't care that much about it. It didn't have the same power that it did before. And I was able to make amends to my family, pay back that money I owed my mom, pay back my grandparents, and really start showing up for life. Like, I made amends to my sisters. I made amends to people that I bullied when I was in high school or middle school or elementary school. I cleaned up a lot of the stuff that I thought about and reviewed, and life became delightful. And I don't say that like sparingly or jokingly. Like, it really has become delightful. Like, I love being sober. And there have been so many trials and tribulations along the way. And I'm just going to rattle some of these off so you can understand where I'm coming from. And I'm not saying these to brag. I'm not saying these to say anything about myself. What I'm trying to tell you right now is that if you don't have any hope, you just came to a place where there's bundles of it. There's tons of it. And you don't have to do anything alone anymore. And that's the truth. I got reunited with my father when I was 3 years sober. And I began a relationship with him because I didn't know the man. We spent 13 years connecting. I got a job that led to me traveling to where he lived. How random, right? A coincidence, right? A lot of people say, well, I've heard people say, coincidences are when God lets you see his work. And I've always liked that. And so I was able to spend time with my father. You know, I lost 2 brother-in-laws to alcoholism. And my grandparents, who I grew up with in their home, passed away. You know, I've been married, divorced, graduated college, danced with my mother at her wedding, you know, next wedding. I've been remarried. I have a daughter. My father died of alcoholism, you know, and like all this stuff has happened in my sobriety. I felt like a lot earlier than it was supposed to, you know, and but who the hell am I? What do I know? I barely know anything. And but I've been involved, and that's the thing. Like all this stuff happened, and I could have left at any time, but I'll tell you what I did. I went to meetings every day for, I think, my first 10 years, you know. I called my sponsor every day for my first 12 years, you know. I got invested in this thing. Like that idea that Dr. Bob talks about in his story where he says, if you practice these principles and try to do AA with the half the zeal that you did with your drinking, you're going to be taken care of. Well, I think I did a little more than that, you know. I tried to replicate my sobriety with the same kind of effort that I did with my drinking. And I have been taken care of. And it has been the most amazing ride for me. And to be honest, I don't want to be anywhere else. All the pain through divorce and all that stuff, which is the absolute worst, you know. And I around 13 years sober, I wanted to drink. And I was sharing in meetings. I am thinking about drinking. It'd be nice to drink. And there were people that I sponsored and people in my home group and people in meetings that were probably like, dude, this guy is falling apart. And they're right. I was, you know, but since I was willing to say that stuff, people could help me. People could put me in their car. People could invite me to do stuff. People could invite me to do service. People could invite me to speak somewhere, do all sorts of stuff that I did not want to do, but I was taught to say yes. And all that stuff that I was going through at that period, like, I got to tell you, like, I'm so grateful for all of it, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go through all of that, you know. And in my eyes, what AA has done for me is given me some of the big picture, you know. But none of this happened without the steps, you know. Like, I see a lot of people come in AA. I sponsor a lot of people, and they, some of them are like, hey, like, I got to get this job. I got to get this girlfriend. I got backup time. You know what I mean? I'm not going to drink, you know. Like, I just want to meet people at this party, you know, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I got to tell you, the only thing that I have to do is do the steps and stay close to the process and stay close to the program. And I will be taken care of. I will find a job. I will find whatever I'm looking for if I can stay sober, you know, and that's been my priority, and it's worked well for me, you know. And I still attend meetings. I just spoke at a rehab school today at noon. I totally forgot that this was happening today until my nephew, who is Sebastian, texted me yesterday and was like, hey, you still good for tomorrow? And I was like, oh yeah, totally. And so I'm glad you reminded me. And this is a beautiful thing, man. Like, here's my nephew, over a year sober, you know, across the country, you know. And he was one of the last people I saw before some in-person meetings started where I am again, but like when COVID kind of kicked off, you know. And he was in Charleston, and I had a business trip in Charleston, and I seriously saw him on like March 11th, you know, and everything shut down on like the 14th, you know. And And like, I'm just so grateful that this thing translates, and that here he is chairing this meeting, like God is good, and I'm just really glad to be in AA. I just recently went to a memorial service of a grand pigeon of mine, grand sponsee. We say pigeon here on the East Coast. It's not because they're dirty birds. It's not what it's about. We say pigeon because of carrier pigeons carrying the message, right? So it's got a much nicer feel to it rather than a dirty bird. But I had a grand pigeon pass away who was 19. And that's when I got sober. And I couldn't help but reflect, but I was at his service, his memorial service with some friends. His family actually hasn't even thrown him anything because they're so beside themselves and distraught that they can't even bring themselves to do it right now. And but there was a guy there who was telling me that he feels like if he had done something different, none of us would be there because this kid would be alive. And if you ever carried that burden, it is terribly painful. And I was able to let him know that, hey, you can leave this at the door, like right here. Like, this is not something you're responsible for. We all take actions. We can't get anybody sober, and we can't get anybody drunk, and we certainly can't hurt them in that way. So I'm just glad that this is something that I've clung to, and there really isn't anywhere else I want to be. So thank you, Sebastian, for asking me. And it's always great to see you. And that's all I've got. Thanks.